Hello, y'all. I'm just getting everything set up still. So if you guys don't know what I'm doing today, is I am doing essentially kind of like a live replay of the questions in a jar event that I had over the weekend because I wasn't able to get through all the questions because I had so many submitted. And also that way, if you missed it, you get to experience it today. So that is what we are going to do today. How is everyone? This is probably the latest I've ever gone live. Good evening. And just so you guys know too, if you've never been live with me before, I try not to say like names when I repeat like in those instances, just because I try to keep names as private as possible. And also if I ever post like a replay or anything like on my YouTube, I like to keep it private. Sleepy. Oh, well, thanks for joining me anyways. Hello, hello. So I'll officially get started in, hi! I will officially get started in probably like 5 minutes. I had the start time. I had an actual event scheduled on TikTok too, so I'll wait. That was officially scheduled for 8:30, so I'll wait a few more minutes to let people hop on. I hope I started the actual like event now that I'm thinking about it. I don't know if I just went live or if I actually started it. Hello, hello. Okay. Perfect timing. Good, good. Like I said, this is actually the latest I've gone live. It's not even like that late necessarily, but usually I go live around like 7 or 6. Actually, I just don't go live that often. In fact, I've gone live 2 days in a row is a record, I think, for me. I really don't like going live. Okay, guys, we'll officially get started in probably less than 5 minutes. So in case you don't know what I'm doing tonight, so this past Sunday, I did a free event. It was the first time I've ever done this, where I called it Questions in a Jar, and I had people register. Hi. I had people register for the event and submit up to 2 questions that they'd like to see, and I put all the questions in a jar, and I just randomly selected them and answered them. It turned out to be really fun, but I had so many questions submitted that I didn't get to all of them. So I just decided, why don't we just do it again on live for y'all? And that way, in case you missed the event, you get to still see questions answered and stuff. So that's what we're doing today. I'm gonna give it probably like maybe 3 more minutes tops, and then we'll officially get started. But I had over 50 questions submitted. I know it doesn't look like that is what is in here, but I folded them really small. And so I had a lot of questions, a lot of really good ones. Some of them made me think. So I love stuff like that. So that's what we're gonna be doing today. Yeah, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Your videos are so inspirational. They've helped me so much throughout my healing journey through my divorce. Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. First of all, it's always kind of like catch-22. I'm sorry that my videos even resonate with you, but I'm glad that they help, if that makes sense. So I appreciate you saying that. Hello. Whoop. My train of thought derails all the time. It's getting worse the older I'm getting. Like, it absolutely is. Today, okay. Random story about today. Hi. So I was out at for those of you that don't know, I'm getting my doctorate in occupational therapy. I'm almost done. I have 2 semesters left, but I'm in the portion of it that it's all clinical rotations. And I am in a home health rotation, so I'm driving all over the place. And my last appointment that I had was over an hour away from my house, and I knew I was getting low on gas, but I was like, I had plenty to get to the appointment, but I was going to have to stop and get some on the way home. I love your thank you. Thank you for the compliment. Um, and I got in my car, pulled up to the gas station, and I start fumbling through my stuff, and I realized I left my wallet at home. And I literally have 40 miles until I'm empty, and I'm 60 miles away from home. I'm like, well, the math ain't mathin', and this is a problem. So I was just, fortunately, thank God, the gas station I went to took Apple Pay, or else I would have been totally screwed. Like, and when you get into like a panic, you don't really think logically for a second. So I'm like sitting here thinking, like, do I just start driving home? And then, like, when I break down, just Uber home and get my wallet and figure it out from there, blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, oh, wait, Apple Pay. Hold on. Let's just go ask and see if they do. If not, I'll find a gas station that does. But like, there was a brief moment where I was getting into like some pretty intense problem solving. I could not. I could not believe I did that. And I was like, God bless. Like, and I knew exactly where it was. It was exactly where I knew where it was, which was on the counter next to the oven, which is not where it's supposed to go, which is why I left it. That's why you put things where they're supposed to go. Yeah, it was an absolute panic attack. I mean, literally, it's 40 miles till empty, and I'm 60 miles from home. And like, my fiance's at work, like my clinical instructor, she's already taken off to home. I'm out in the middle of freaking nowhere. I was like, oh God, what am I gonna do? If you have towing on your auto policy, they will bring you gas. I didn't know that. That's actually good to know. I do have that on my auto policy. Speaking of one more random fact, and then we'll get started. Speaking of auto policies, I don't know about y'all's. I love my insurance company. I've had them since I was 16. Literally, I've had one insurance company the entire time. My insurance over the last year has doubled. I have no tickets, no accidents, no incidents, no anything. And it has doubled. And I called them yesterday because I was like, I need y'all to help me figure this out because I may have to shop somewhere else because this is just like, it's way too freaking expensive. And they were great. They helped me figure out a few things without changing everything. But has anybody else's auto insurance just like gone crazy high lately? And they said it's just because inflation's so bad with everything, like cost of labor and cost of parts and like all that stuff. It's just, so did yours over the last 2 years. Isn't it nuts? Like, I mean, okay, so I have two cars. I have a sports car and then I have like a small SUV. But the sports car, and I even have it listed on the insurance, it's like my play car. Like, I don't even drive it 2,000 miles a year, and it's a 2001. So like, it's an old car. So like, my insurance on that car isn't really that expensive. Can they quote you with another company? No, because they're like standalone. That makes sense. But I mean, they're a good company. I just don't want to say it on here just because, I don't know, legal reasons, I guess. I don't know. But they're a great company, and they always take care of me if anything does happen. But I was just like, is there something that I didn't know about or whatever? But it was a little nuts. $550 a month. Oh, okay. I thought mine was bad. Mine's not quite that bad. I probably will shop around just in case, but I don't know. It's hard because I trust them. Like, they actually do their job if something does go wrong. So it's like I do at least get what I pay for, if that makes sense. But yeah, I don't know. It was expensive. So we'll just deal with it, I guess. Okay, so I don't want to get started too late because I also don't want to be on live too late because I still have to cook dinner. So again, what we're doing today is called Questions in a Jar. It is a repeat of the live event that I had on Sunday. So I had people register for the event. They submitted 2 questions that they would like to see answered, and then I put them all in a jar, and I'm randomly just going to pull them out and answer them. I just decided to do this again because I didn't even get through half the questions last time, like literally, and B, in case you missed the event, you're able to watch it here. So that's what we're doing today. I do want to just make a quick announcement if you guys have not heard about it yet. And just bear with me. I'll probably announce it a couple of times just because people will come in late and stuff. I have launched a coaching community. What this community is it is completely geared toward implementable strategies and content. So it's going to have exclusive content on like how to heal from narcissistic and toxic relationships, but really carry you past the initial healing of just the narcissistic person. It's really about building a life that is rooted in your own self-confidence and self-worth and self-value and setting boundaries and all of that. This is a brand new launch, and I am looking for people that want to kind of start it with the ground up with me at what are called founding members. So I have a founding members offer right now. It's only $25 a month. And what we would do together as founding members is you guys would give me direct feedback on the type of content that you'd like to see on a weekly and monthly basis. I've already had some good ideas come in from the people that have already joined. And we would work together for like a month or two. And then what I will do is I will relaunch it. It'll be a higher price point because at that point it's built. But all the founding members are locked in at their rate as long as they stay part of the community. And it's called Trey's Tribe, which I just think is really cute. So if you are interested in that, please just send me a DM. If you have any questions, you can also go to the link in my bio and any of the platforms, and it's the first thing under that link. So if you have questions on it or if you're interested, please DM me. And yeah, so just wanted to start that real quick. And by the way, the questions in a jar thing is one of the ideas that I would do in the tribe on a monthly basis, but it would just be in that community, not out here publicly. So if you like what we do today, that's where you'll continue to see it. Anyways, enough business. Let's get to getting. Okay. So, I'm spilling everywhere already. I hope I don't get a hard one right off the bat. Oh, this is a great one. Okay. I want you guys to give me a thumbs up or just say like me or something like that if you relate to this question or if you struggled with this. How do you deal with a narcissist flaunting their new life in your face? I don't know about y'all, but my narcissistic ex sure did do that. So first and foremost, if you're able to, okay, I'm saying this with like nothing but love because I fell for this. My narcissistic ex really wanted to stay in my life in one way or the other. And so he was like really adamant that we stayed friends. I did not have knowledge about how these people operated at the time, so I fell for it completely, and he did this. So number one, if they're able to flaunt it in your face, then that means in some way, form, or fashion, we're looking, and I would just really encourage you to not look. And the reason why is because oftentimes they are going to do with this new supply, whether they have a new supply or not, oftentimes everything that they do and how they live their life, especially in the public form, like on social media and that kind of stuff, they do it in hopes that you're watching. It's like this like fantasy of theirs almost. So just do yourself a favor and don't, because it's very intentional. I know there's situations where you're like co-parenting and all of that kind of stuff, and you can't necessarily go no contact. And even if you're not emotionally ready to completely go no contact, hi fiance, then I would just encourage to at least get off of their like social media, because they are going to taunt you and hope that you see it. But the way that you deal with it emotionally, if you've seen it or it's getting back, whatever it might be, is you need to understand, and this is something I told myself a lot. If someone truly is like really living their best life, quote unquote, they're just out there living it. They're not trying to convince everybody else that they're living their best life. So for me, when I see anybody over promoting how good their life is, to me, that just tells me they're trying to convince either themselves of how good their life is, or they're trying to convince somebody else. And you always have that vibe if that person is you. So again, that's just one of those reasons why it's just better just to block. It's just better not to look at it and just understand that the life that they live is very shallow. Like, and that's just in general, like it is just shallow. Like, and it is about surface level. It's about what other people think about them. And they're never really going to post and talk about consequences of their actions. They're always going to want everybody to think that everybody's just grand and they're living their best life. And so I say that to understand it doesn't mean that they're not dealing with consequences and things aren't going wrong. My ex was literally living on somebody's couch for the first 3 months after I had kicked him out. And all he talked about was how great his life was. And it wasn't, just being honest, it wasn't. So that's kind of one way you can deal with it. And people are saying it's a mask, and it is. They're putting on the mask again. So that's how you can deal with that. Next one. I want to make it fun. Not just take them off the top. Oh no! Ich spilled. Okay, next one. Why do they make you feel like you can't do anything right? Ooh, that's a good one. Um, okay, so why do they make you feel like you can't do anything right? Okay, I want you to think about this. If they're able to manipulate your mind enough to convince you that you can't do anything right, that you're not worth it, or like you know what I'm trying to say. Like they're trying to convince you of your worth is lower than what it is, or that you can't do anything right. The thing you have to understand this or understand about this, um, hi La Disco Mama. If you're on my TikTok live, if you're not following La Disco Mama, please make sure that you are. Her content's amazing. Um, but if you think about it, if they're trying to make you feel like what you are doing isn't good enough, or that you need them, or like, almost like you're unlovable, or like you're lucky that you have them, or whatever. They're lucky. They'll say things like, you're lucky I put up with you, whatever. If they continue to do that, what that does is it convinces you that you do need them, and it tells you a different story about yourself, and that is that this is as good as it gets, or nobody else is going to love me, or nobody else is going to put up with me because I can't do anything right. They're trying to tell you the story that they want you to believe, because what they also know is that once you start to see yourself for who you are and start to understand the true story about yourself and the situation, they know that you're out. Like, that's the thing about it, is they're not necessarily stupid. Sometimes they just are. But with stuff like this and this manipulation tactics and trying to convince you that you can't do anything right, it's very purposeful. And what they're doing is they are just like it was said here on Facebook, they are devaluing you so that way you stay, because it in a way it forces you in this place to find value through them. And that's why also it's very hard for us to leave, because they manipulate us in a way to where our concept of self is completely wrapped up in them. And that's a big reason why this breakup feels different than any other one. So that's why they do it. It's about power and control, my friend. Okay, next question. How long did it take you to leave your narcissist? This question's tricky for me. And the reason why I say this is because there was no exit strategy. I was put into a very big fight or flight situation where I kicked him out because I feared for my physical safety. The one boundary I was able to hold in the relationship, I wasn't able to hold a lot of them, but the one that I was able was that when it crossed over into physical violence, I was done. And really the only reason I was able to hold that boundary was because I refused to let my kids be exposed to that. And there was an evening where it was actively crossing over into that, and that's when I was just like, get out of my house. But what I will tell you, I'll tell you two things, and I want you to understand that for a lot of people, it does take more than one try to officially leave an abusive partner, whether it's emotional, physical, whatever it might be. 3 months into the relationship, I did end things with him because it was after his first really bad rage episode. But I let him convince me to take him back. So it did take me technically more than one try. It was just very early on in the relationship, and then it was a total of 18 months. But the other thing that I had done, I was leasing my home at the time, and I think that this had to have been, I kicked him out in the month of May, so this had to have been going through my mind somewhere between, this was all 2020. I just know it was before the shutdown, so it had to have been January or February. Things were starting to get pretty bad. The last 5 months of our relationship was very toxic. And I did have a thought in my brain that if things didn't get better by the time the lease was up, which was in September, that I was just going to tell him I'm not renewing the lease and I'm done. So I kind of had a plan. And then unfortunately, I wasn't given the option to even carry out that plan if I needed to. So, but just, I don't want anybody here to feel guilty of the fact if it took you more than one try or if it took you a while. Most people, the average is 7 times. I was one of the lucky ones where it took me twice. So someone just also said, I've heard that they are a dopamine addiction for us. It's like kicking a bad habit. So I can really geek out on this kind of stuff. And because again, I'm getting my doctorate in occupational therapy school. So I've actually studied a lot of neuroscience stuff. I'm not an expert by any means, but I've studied it a lot. And they are calling these relationships a love addiction relationship. And the thing about addictions, so when you relate it back to like typical substance abuse, the most dopamine that's actually released in substance abusers is not when they partake, it's actually in the anticipation of partaking. And the same thing applies in these relationships. It's during that time period, when you're like, we talked about this a little bit last night. So if you're repeating, I'm sorry. If you were here last night and this is a repeat, I'm sorry. But there's this like whole Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde phenomenon that happens. And so Mr. Hyde kind of pops out, right? And then we always know that Dr. Jekyll is going to come back, whether it's like literally that day or, a couple of days later, or maybe even a week or so later. There's like always this Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde thing. And we know that the Dr. Jekyll's coming back, and that's our anticipation period. And then when Dr. Jekyll finally comes back in and love bombs us, it reinforces that pattern of behavior and that whole like dopamine addiction cycle. So it is, and that's another one of the reasons it makes it very difficult to leave. And a lot of times you have to remember, a lot of people are scared to leave too. So just don't feel guilty if it took you a while. My philosophy is it's better late than never. At least you got out at some point in time. Okay. And again, guys, for those, I've seen a lot of people have kind of hopped on later. If you like this kind of event, like this kind of content, this how to, like the implementable kind of things, please consider joining my coaching community. I just launched it. It's called Trey's Tribe. Right now, I am looking for founding members. I'm inviting anybody that wants to be a founding member. It's only $25 a month. Everything that we do in that tribe is going to be about the how-tos, because that's what I get the most questions about. How do I do this? How do I get over this? Like, how do I deal with this? And you'll even notice in these questions, that's mostly what it is. And that just tells me there's enough information out there about this topic and about the cycle and about the terms. We're not going to really focus on all that. We're going to focus on you. We're going to help make that shift from getting all the knowledge and trying to understand this to using that mental energy to put back into your healing. And we will be doing this event. One of the ideas that I have is we're going to be doing this event every month. You submit your questions. I put them in the jar. We go live together, but it'll just be in the community. I joined last night. Hi. So if you're interested in that, or even if you have questions, I'm looking for people to be founding members to help me build this and give me ideas and feedback and all of that. And just tell me what you'd like to see in this. Just send me a DM. If you have any questions, just please let me know. Or you can go to the link in my bio and you can go and find the information in there as well. It's the first thing that pops up when you click the link in my bio. Okay, so next question. Oh, well, this one's kind of on topic of what I just talked about. This is kind of the stuff that we would do in the tribe, the kind of content that we would talk about. How do you get your self-esteem back after a narcissistic relationship? I want everybody to give me like some sort of like thumbs up emoji in the comments if this is something that you feel like you struggle with, which is getting your self-esteem back after these kinds of relationships, because I will be shocked if you don't. Every person that I have coached over the past 2 years has struggled with this. So this is a pretty like deep question in a way, where it's not like a simple black and white answer about how to get your self-esteem back after this. But if I could just give like a brief answer on how to do it, we have to, there's so many things. One thing that we have to do is we have to make sure that we're telling ourselves the correct story. And what I mean by that is we have to start living in the reality of our situation. So instead of saying things like, oh my gosh, I was such an idiot for staying, or how could I have been so stupid, blah, 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 we start correcting those phrases of, I wasn't stupid for staying. I was just trying to keep my family together. Or I was an idiot for falling for this. I was masterfully manipulated. And you start telling yourself the correct story. The other thing that is really important to do is to start doing things that are meaningful to you. So many times in these relationships, there's been activities or things that you enjoy that have been robbed from you, or maybe you just haven't done in a long time because of this person. And you need to start incorporating those back into your daily routine, because when you take care of yourself and you actually do legitimate self-care, what I mean by that is not just the things that society says. Nothing wrong with those, like the beauty industry and all that. Nothing wrong with any of that. And I think there's a place for that. But I'm talking about the daily things that you can do, like your nighttime skincare routine, spending quality time with your friends, quality time with your family, going for walks, just taking care of yourself. What that does is it tells your subconscious mind that you're worth taking care of. And it doesn't lead you to arrogance. It leads you to self-esteem, because you have the self-esteem to know I'm worth taking care of, and I'm important. And those things do a lot for your subconscious mind, for sure. That is the quickest that I can answer this, or I can honestly do like a whole live just on that. But that's the kind of stuff that we will actually talk about a lot in my coaching community, for sure. It's so much more than just getting over the narcissistic person. It's really about rebuilding your life and honestly making your life the way that you deserve it, and understanding that you are enough and you don't need anybody to complete you. It's so, I think healing from the narcissistic person is just step one. Welcome home, baby. Okay, next question. How do you accept, bless you. So, okay, I have the tattletale on him a little bit. So my fiance, he wouldn't tell, oh, I shouldn't say that part. I was going to stereotype for a second. He's a video gamer. And so part of his like downtime after work is to game. And we just have a 1-bedroom apartment right now. So I do all my lives at the kitchen table. He's like, can I still play my game if you turn the sound off? I promise I'll be really quiet. And I'm just laughing at him, because the first thing that he does when he sits down is just sneeze. And I'm like, good start. I'm just kidding. Okay. So how do you accept that? Really? You said you'd have the sound off. I told you didn't care as long as the sound was off.
I just turned it on.
Okay, so how do you accept that he or they, whoever it was never really in love with you or cared about you? Someone said, I missed the live on the 19th. This is the same thing. Yes, I'm essentially repeating it live. So how do you accept that they never really cared about you? Okay. In some situations, I do think that they're like the really covert kind of situations. Like, yes, that might be reality. But I want you to just consider this, okay? It's not that narcissistic and toxic people don't feel emotions, but the way that they process emotions is very different than how you and I do. And the way that they feel something like love is very different than the way that you and I do. I don't think that my relationship with my narcissistic ex was completely voided of love. I just don't think that he was capable of loving somebody the way that I am. And I want to explain why. Most narcissistic and toxic people, I'm just going to use this as an example. So say I have this water bottle and we'll just pretend it's fancy. It's not, it's from Walmart. But you know, when I first got like this shaker bottle and all that kind of stuff, you know, let's just say like I loved this bottle. For some reason, I was just obsessed with it, right? But as you can see, like my puppy's gotten a hold of it. It's got chew marks on it. It's starting to get a little stained and this and that. So the thing that I used to love, what am I going to do? I'm going to toss it and get a new one. That's how narcissistic and toxic people, unfortunately, love people. It's an ownership kind of love. So whenever you start to stand up for yourself, or you start to break the image that they created for you to be in their mind, and you start to, you know, really just get beaten down by them. But anytime that there's something changes or anything in the relationship, what they do is they just discard us and they get the new toy. And unfortunately, that really sucks. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it was absent of love. It just means it was not the same kind of love that you were capable of, and not the same kind of love that you gave. So there is still some pain that's accepted to that, or there's pain associated with accepting that. But again, unless it's like a true sociopathic, like covert kind of situation, it's not that it was completely absent. It's just, it wasn't sustainable, and it had nothing to do with you. It's just how they process love. And unfortunately, it was never going to sustain, because they can't. That's my 2 cents on that. Next question. Okay. I'm probably not gonna be able to get through all these again today, but that's why I'm trying to get some of the ones from the bottom so I can answer ones that I didn't get to. Oh, this is such a good question. Okay, why do they claim to want a peaceful life, but when it is, they create chaos? This is so good. Okay, I'm going to tell you guys like a quick story in my situation. So we moved into our house in September, I think. Yeah, it was September. And there was it was a couple weeks after we had moved in. We were watching TV, like Criminal Minds or something, and he just randomly started crying. And now, mind you, a lot of the times when he would cry, it was like that, all the drama but no tears, if you know what I mean. But this time there was actual like tears rolling down his face. So I was like, oh wow, something's like legit going on. And I asked him, I was like, what's going on? And he just said, I'm so afraid of effing this up. And I just was like, I just kind of looked at him sideways. I was like, what are you talking about? And he said, I mess up every good thing in my life. And I'm just so afraid of messing this up. I finally have the kids. I finally have a good partner, the house, the dog, the yard. Like I have everything I've ever wanted. And I'm just afraid I'm going to mess it up. That was honestly probably the most genuinely honest thing that he's ever said in my entire relationship. Because literally 2 months later, he started cheating. So why do they do this? A really simple answer. They're almost addicted to the chaos. There's two reasons. They're addicted to the chaos. And number two, a lot of them do have severe traumas. I mean, that's just the reality. And a lot of it can come from, I think with my ex in particular, and I think this is a lot of them, they have abandonment issues. I think a lot of it is self-fulfilling prophecy type things and results of their actions. But they've had more people leave them than have stayed, mostly from the consequences of their choices. So in a way, they'll create the chaos so that way they're at least in control of it. They'll create the chaos so that way you leave or you break up with them or whatever, and they do a forced discard and all of this because at least they controlled it. They did it intentionally. And again, it's still about power and control, but they do get very addicted to the chaos. And I've actually even heard, I follow Lee Hammock in Mental Illness, and he's talked about this, that, he would rather create the chaos in his own life than wait for it to just fall apart. Like, I mean, he's flat out said that. So it's just classic self-sabotage. That's ultimately and y'all are saying it on here. It's self-sabotage, because that self-sabotage ultimately is rooted from a place of being fearful of being out of control. That's what it is. Okay, so I have found myself wondering how I was so blind. So what advice do you have going forward to prevent it from happening again? So here's my only problem with the language of this question. And I think we all say this at one point in time. So again, everything I say comes from a place of understanding and love. Please hear that. But the reality is, if we were very honest with ourselves, we probably weren't blind to certain things. Again, in some extreme situations, like covert sociopathic situations, there's always exceptions to the rules. So anything I say is never just completely generalized. Real quick, someone said, should I warn the new supply? Usually it doesn't do any good. It doesn't, because you have to think about it. If somebody had warned you at the beginning, it probably wouldn't have worked. It's just going to set you up to honestly be verbally attacked by them and make you look like the crazy one. That's a side note. I just saw that and thought that was an important answer. But anyways, if we think back about it, it's not necessarily that we were blind to things. It's that, because let's just be honest with each other here. And this is safe space, so there's no judgment in this. But I want you to give me a thumbs up if you saw red flags in the relationship, like that you saw the red flags in the beginning, and you just ignored them. And again, I'm wanting to prove a point here. It's not necessarily that we didn't see the red flags. It's for some reason there was a story going on in our head that outweighed the red flags that we saw. We made a choice to say, you know what, I know this is here, but that's not a big deal, or, that could get better over time, or, I might be able to help him change that, whatever it might be. We made a choice. So it's not that we were blind. You have good instincts. You did see the red flags. Now you just need to listen to them. And again, I'm not saying that with judgment at all. Guilty as charged. There were so many freaking red flags that I saw. And I literally made I remember saying things like, well, this isn't great, but, and then I made the choice to just kind of ignore it. But now what you've done is you've now seen what happens when you ignore your intuition. And that's not coming from a place of judging yourself over. It's just one of those things like if you want to walk away with something from this relationship, let it just be a lesson learned. I did see these things. And let it be a way to reinforce that you can trust yourself. I did see these things. I did notice that. I wasn't blind to this. I just made the choice to ignore it. And say that to yourself without having a place of judgment from it. So you can do this, and you can trust, you can prevent this. You just have to value yourself enough to not ignore the red flags. Because I know for me, and I can't speak for everybody, one of the main reasons that I ignored the red flags is because I was so afraid of being alone. And I was just my life had less meaning if I wasn't in a relationship. And so for me, I had myself convinced like, well, if this one doesn't work out, like I'll be alone for forever. And the story that I was telling myself was just so not accurate. But that story had more weight than my own value. And that's why I chose to ignore the red flags. So I say all that from personal experience and with love. You're not blind to it. You'll be fine. You just have to trust yourself. Okay. How did I accidentally get that one again? I grabbed from the wrong pile. Sorry, y'all. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. So literally spinning right off of what I just talked about. How can you become happy and not be a part of a couple? Okay. That was just cool. I loved how that happened. So moving right into it. I'm from the South, so you'll have to like forgive me for my Southern metaphor here. But my job every Thanksgiving is to make the pumpkin pie, right? So if you guys know pumpkin pies and how they work, whatever. So you have like your pie, right? But when you serve the pie, oftentimes, then I want y'all to comment if you know, and I just want to see what everybody else does too. What do a lot of people put on top of a piece of pumpkin pie when it's being served? I know what they do here in Texas, but syrup. Did you say syrup? Oh my God, I'm judging you. The answer is not syrup. What do most people put on top of pumpkin pie when they serve it at Thanksgiving? Whipped cream. Some version of whipped cream, right? In my household, it's the Cool Whip, right? But yes, you put the whipped cream on top of the pumpkin pie. Next question. Do you technically need the whipped cream to complete the pumpkin pie? Like, is it necessary? Or can you have a pumpkin pie without the cream? No, you don't need the whipped cream to complete the pie. This is how relationships should be for you. You need to look at yourself as you have all the ingredients that you need to complete your own pie. Like, plain and simple. Someone that comes into your life should be the whipped cream that takes your pie to the next level. Does that make sense? Like, people put it on there because it's just like, oh, it just takes everything to the next level. That's what a relationship is. But you are your nutmeg, you are the cinnamon, you are the pumpkin, you are the Eagle brand milk. You are everything that you need to create a whole and complete life. And if somebody is not coming in that elevates your life and takes it to the next level, they don't need to be in it. Your life doesn't have less value and it doesn't have less meaning just because you don't have someone. Now, here's the other way to look at it. It's okay to want a relationship. It's okay to want to share your life with somebody, but it doesn't mean that it has less meaning if you don't. And if it's not taking you or helping you get to the next level, it's just not worth it. And that was a very hard lesson for me to learn, because my therapist had asked me at one point in time, if you accomplish every single goal in your life, but you don't have a partner, does it have less meaning? And honestly, at the time, and I was honest with her, I said yes. And she said, then you have a wrong outlook on what a relationship should be. So that's my favorite metaphor. I use it all the time. And I always am like, I know I'm from the South, but it just makes sense to me. Hopefully that makes sense to y'all too. I should add that to my merch store. I should add a t-shirt that says I am the whole pumpkin pie or something like that. That could be kind of cute because I do say that all the time. Okay. This is kind of a long answer, I guess. But can you give tips for healing the trauma bond? Okay, well, quick plug, like quick shameless plug. If this is something that you are struggling with in general, this is a part of what we do in Trey's Tribe, which is my coaching community that I just launched it. It's brand new. I'm inviting anybody that wants to be a founding member. It's only $25 a month. What you're going to do is help me build this coaching community by giving me direct feedback. You'll have direct access to me. Tell me the kind of things that you need to hear and see. We're going to be doing like exclusive content, exclusive events that's just for the coaching community. This questions in a jar thing is one of those that I'm going to do, but it'll actually like be in the community, not public. And it is going to talk about how to get like break trauma bonds and get over obsessive thinking and all of that. But it's going to take you far beyond that, because really that's just step one. Like we want to continue to build the self-esteem, the self-worth, the self-value, so that we don't get into this situation again. So if you are interested in joining that community, please just send me a direct message. Unless you're on YouTube, I don't think I get direct messages on that. So if you're on YouTube, because I know I have some people on there, the better way to do it would actually be to send me an email, and I'm putting it on the screen on YouTube right now. Everybody else, or you can also send me a DM on Instagram, but you can send me an Instagram here, Facebook, or like I said, you can email me. I just put that on YouTube. But anyways, so if you are struggling trying to get out of the trauma bond, I think, oh God, there's just so many things. It's hard to answer this in like a quick minute or two, which, let's be honest, none of my answers are really taking a minute. Okay. The first thing that I'm gonna say when it comes to breaking the trauma bond is you need to understand, this is baseline, that you're never going to understand all of this, but you do have to accept what's happened to you. Oftentimes when we get stuck in the trauma bond, or we get stuck in the obsessive thinking cycle, or whatever it might be, it's because we get very wrapped up trying to explain everything, and we try to bring our logical thinking into an illogical situation. And that's never going to match. But that doesn't mean that we can't accept what's happened to us. And we do have to accept what's happened to us, because we have to accept our own reality, and we have to accept who this person really is, so we can start seeing the relationship for what it was and see them for who they are. Because then when you can start looking at it logically, then it depersonalizes it, because you'll understand this is just who this person is. There's nothing I could have done. There's nothing that any of you could have done to prevent their choices and actions and decisions. It's just who they are. And it's not a reflection of you or your worth. It's actually a reflection of the brokenness inside of them. And when you can start trying to get yourself to that level of, that's what we do need to understand. And when we can get there, then the other stuff is going to help follow. But I just had a comment on here. Remember some of the things that you used to enjoy. I say that all the time. Bring back in meaningful activities. Start making new memories. If you were isolated, start getting back in contact with your family and your friends. Y'all, you have to remember, for me, I left him in the middle of the pandemic. Like everything was still shut down. So quality time with friends and family was not exactly an option for me, but I still figured it out. I set FaceTime dates with my friends. I like, we would literally do like FaceTime dinner dates where we would make our own dinners and we'd have our own glass of wine. We would, put it up and set it up just like this. Like I would spend more intentional time with my kids. I started to get physically active again. I just started to make new memories, because we have to start moving forward and stop allowing ourselves to stay stuck in where we're at. And I know that's so much easier said than done. Like I said, I'm summarizing this, but again, if y'all need help with that, do please consider starting off in the founding member offer with Trey's Tribe. What we're doing is we're going to build all of this together for like a month or two, and then I'm going to relaunch it, and it will be at a higher price point. But if you started as a founding member, it never changes. So it's only going to be this low, like right now. And time does help, but it's not time alone. We need time plus the work and a healing plan, because unfortunately, there's just a lot of bad mental habits that were developed in the relationship, and those don't just necessarily go away on its own. Okay, I gotta move on for time's sake. I can camp out there if I want to. That one's another long one. I'm gonna try to find some that I can answer kind of quick. Yeah, well, that one's very situational. Okay, if anybody asks me this question, just because this is very specific, it says, why do narcissistic men go to foreign countries to get wives? That's really specific. So direct message me that question and I can help you answer that. I want to try to get some stuff that's more general. Okay, so this one we kind of talked about. The question why do they want to make you feel like everything you do is wrong? My answer to this question is very similar to the answer to that question. And the question is, why do narcissists want to make you feel like you aren't good enough? Because if you don't feel like you're good enough, then you need them. And the biggest fear that a narcissistic person has is being insignificant. It's a very shame and fear-based personality trait. I'm not talking about the disorder. I don't really care about the disorders. I don't care about the labels. I care about the behaviors and the actions. So that's why you hear me say narcissistic and toxic, because I don't really care about the disorder. Anytime that someone has these kind of character traits, it's because they're afraid of being insignificant. And if you don't need them, then they're insignificant. So they create their own significance by making you feel small. That's the fastest way I can answer that. Okay. Oh, this is my wheelhouse. Literally wrote a whole course on this. How do you deal with the constant rumination and them constantly being on your mind? Okay. If you are dealing with obsessive thinking, literally this is my wheelhouse. I wrote a whole course on it. It's called Breaking Free from Rumination. You can see that in the link in my bio as well. But also this is going to be stuff that we deal with in Trey's tribe as well, which is my new coaching community. But okay, this is what I was talking about when I just said a few minutes ago about how we develop really bad mental habits in the relationship. And one of them actually is rumination. We just don't realize it. So when we're in the relationship, we actually are ruminating all the time. It just looks different, because rumination, another way of saying that is it's obsessive thinking. So in the relationship, you're constantly obsessively thinking of like, well, what version of them's coming home today? Like, you're walking on eggshells so you don't set them off. Like, if you get that text message that they're on their way home, you frantically start cleaning up the house. You know, you're constantly on edge. Well, unfortunately, when the relationship ends, that doesn't just go away because the relationship ends. It's actually a habit that has been developed. So now it may look like cyberstalking, or cyberstalking the new supply, or replaying the relationship over and over again, or, you know, trying to make sense of everything, or, you know, whatever it might be. And like I said, it doesn't just necessarily go away on its own. You have to start trying to replace. It's not a matter of breaking the habit. It's about replacing it with a more healthy habit. So one of the things that you can start focusing on right away is write down. Everybody kind of has like their own subject matter that they ruminate over, like, consistently. Mine was about the cheating. So write down what you actually are ruminating about, and ask yourself a couple questions. The first question that I would ask myself about this is, do I really need to know this information? Like, plain and simple. So like with me, I wanted to know all the details about the cheating. And I just asked myself, do I really need to know? Like, or do I know enough? Like, the fact that I know it happened and that it was at least 3 people, like, that's enough. And then you can ask yourself, is there anything that I can do to control this, or is this completely out of my control? And most of the time it's going to be completely out of your control. And a lot of times then when you can just accept the fact that it's it was out of my control, I was never going to actually get the truth about that. So why am I going to sit here and continue to think about it? So then what I did is I came up with the correcting phrase, and this is what I mean. So when I would start to think about the cheating and wanting to know all the details and this and that, I would say the same thing over and over again, which was, you know what? I'm never going to know all these details. It's completely out of my control. And the fact that it happened and what I do know is all that I need to know. And I'm just grateful I don't have to deal with it anymore. And when you come up with these correcting phrases, then when those rumination thoughts start to come in, you can immediately combat them with your correcting phrase and start creating a new mental habit for yourself, which what you're doing is you're reminding yourself of the truth, and just reminding yourself that you're just not going to know all this. So you're not going to understand all of this. and just get yourself redirected. So I would say that, and then I would find something to do to kind of distract my mind. So if I was home, I would find something to clean. I have 3 children. There's always something to clean or pick up. And for me, cleaning is it's a way that I can escape. I know some people that doesn't work, but for me it is. But I would do that, or I would go on a walk, or I would, if I was driving, I would put on like one of my favorite songs and just jam out, or I would call a friend and talk to them about anything but that. If I was at work, I'd find something to do. So again, find something to physically redirect you, so that way you can, and you'll have to probably do this a couple of times a day when it first starts, especially if you're at home. But that's, again, very quick rundown. But I do have a course about rumination specifically, and it really does go into like managing triggers, managing your emotions. It gives you exercises on how to do those correcting thoughts. So I do have that. The other option is join the tribe as a founding member, because we're going to talk about this kind of stuff on a weekly basis, but you're only going to find that content in the actual tribe itself. So if you have questions about the tribe or how it works or what we're going to be doing, just send me a DM, or just send me a DM, let me know you're interested, and I can send you more information too. Okay, moving on. Okay, I've already gotten through more questions tonight than I did at the live event. So, oh, this is good. How can you tell if something that feels wrong, like if you have like kind of that ugly feeling in your gut, if something is wrong, is your own trauma or an actual red flag? Great question. So I think, especially when you start to get to the point, and if you're not anywhere near here, that's okay. But especially when you start to try to date again, I struggled with this a lot in the beginning of my relationship. And I just know I'm going to get looks from him. He's right across the table. I struggled with creating problems in my own brain. And what I mean by, I was creating red flags, and the reason why is because it was very fear-based. So if you're dealing with trying to figure out, okay, is this my trauma or is this an actual red flag? The first question I always ask myself is this coming from a place of fear? Because if I felt fearful about it, like, is it really rooted in fear? And if it's rooted in fear, then it's most likely trauma extended, if that makes sense. And the next question that you can ask yourself is, do I have any evidence to back what I'm afraid of? So, okay, I'm going to give you a great example from my personal experience. In my relationship with my narcissistic ex, there was a day, I don't remember what we were doing. We were home. He was in the kitchen doing something. I was standing in the living room, I think. And I don't even remember what he said to me, but he said something to me, and the thought that came into my brain, I literally was like, oh my gosh, she's cheating on me. And he didn't say anything about me. Like, it was literally just some offhanded comment. I don't know. I don't remember, but I was like, he's cheating on me. And so after he went to bed that night and several nights after, I was going through his phone. I couldn't find anything. And every time I couldn't find anything, what I said was, Trey, you're just being insecure. So I had the gut feeling. I couldn't find the evidence, and I convinced myself that I was insecure. At one point in time, my insecurities, and I'll just be honest with y'all. After my fiance proposed to me, I kind of freaked out a little bit, and my insecurities started to come back up, and it was fear-based because of what I've been through, because it's like my relationship took the next level. Don't worry, I went back to my therapist and all that stuff. We're good now. But I was dealing with insecurities. And what happened is that I started to feel my insecurities. And I was like, I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy enough. I'm not handsome enough. I'm not this. So if he's not cheating on me now, then he's going to be. So it felt the same as it did with my narcissistic ex. But the way that I got there was different. With my narcissistic ex, it was the gut feeling. And then I convinced myself I was insecure. With my fiance, I was feeling insecure and convinced myself that he was cheating or he was going to. And so you kind of have to almost like map out how you even got to that thought. And that will tell you a lot right off of the bat. But just, you have to be very honest with yourself and do a lot of reflection and asking a lot of questions. It's a little exhausting, I'm not going to lie, but it is very important. And just be honest with yourself. So how do I keep... I think I wrote questions more than once on accident.
Well, you keep putting them back in the same jar.
Oh, I keep putting them back in the jar. Oh. No, I'm throwing them out to the side.
I'm chucking 2 of them out.
Oh. Apparently I keep putting the questions back in the jar. Thanks, Abe. Ew.
I'm not even paying attention when I see you do it.
Okay. What do you think is the biggest mistake that people make when healing? This is a great, great question. Okay, this actually might surprise y'all. Like genuinely, that my answer might surprise you. And again, I say this with nothing but love. I've been coaching people for almost 2 years at this point, and the biggest mistake that I see from people, and the ones that make, and what kind of makes or break people from making faster recovery, the ones that don't, is they let their feelings make all the decisions. Like, and so what I mean by that is that you're never going to feel like getting all this started. You're never going to feel like doing the work that you need to do. You're never going to feel like going no contact. You're never going to feel like finally, just starting to incorporate all this stuff back and do the hard work, because it is hard. And when we let our feelings determine our actions, it slows everything down. So, but if you flip the script and you actually start to do what you know is right, the feelings will actually follow that. I'm just going to be really honest with you guys. Like, I have been on the health and fitness journey for 5 years. I used to weigh 270 pounds. I was a big boy. But even still this day, like, I try to work out like anywhere between 4 or 5 times a week. I don't feel like going to the gym. Most of the time I don't, especially in the morning. I would much rather keep sleeping. I would much rather if I work out in the afternoon when I come home from work, I don't want to go. I would much rather just go home and do other things. And I'm usually in a bad mood the entire time that I'm like, especially if it's early in the morning, just don't talk to me in the morning if I'm getting ready to go work out. But like the whole time, like I'm getting ready, I get my pre-workout going, I'm getting to the gym, through my warm-up, all that stuff, I don't feel like doing what I'm doing, but I do it anyways because I know that it's good for me. And I know that is going to give me a better life because it allows me to be more active with my kids. And, I can go up and down the stairs and not get winded like I used to. And I'm healthier. I don't have liver enzyme issues anymore. I'm not like, I do it because I know it's good for me. But if I let my feelings determine it, I go right back to where I was 5 years ago. And this is hard, and I understand, but when you do the actions and you do the things that you know is right, I promise you the feelings actually will come. But the trick with this is meet yourself where you're at. I think the other mistake that kind of goes along with this is we kind of see where we want to be and we want to get back to this like place of normal, and we just want to get back there like right now. So we like set all of these like really high goals and high expectations. And I'm going to work out 7 days a week, and I'm going to meal prep and all this, and I'm going to do all this and do all this and do all this. But for the past 2 weeks, like we've barely gotten off our couch. We're not there yet. So just meet yourself where you're at and say, you know what, this week, I'm just going to make sure I do my nighttime skincare routine every day this week. And maybe you're not even quite ready for that. So maybe you just say, you know what, this week, I'm just going to do my nighttime skincare routine 4 out of the 7 nights a week. So meet yourself where you're at. Did you used to drink alcohol? I've never been addicted to alcohol, but I partake socially, but no. But you will. I know why potentially why you're asking that question is because some of this stuff is very similar to like recovery. There's a reason for that. These relationships they feel very addictive. And honestly, I kind of started to treat myself like I had an addiction. Like at one point in time, I started saying the Serenity Prayer. I have friends and some family members that have gone through recovery. So fortunately, I knew some things, but that might be why you're asking that question. I don't know. Anyways, but meet yourself where you're at. And when you can accomplish those small goals, which probably feel like big goals to you right off the bat, it increases your confidence. It makes you feel better. And then you want to do it again. And then maybe the next week you go for 5 days instead of just 4, and et cetera, et cetera. And you slowly rebuild it back. And that actually creates momentum and almost like the snowballing effect. But that was a really long answer. I'm sorry. But that's one of the biggest mistakes that I do see made is that we let our feelings determine all of our actions. And you kind of have to flip the script at one point in time. I kind of went into this just now, but what are the basic beginnings of healing from a narcissist? We've talked about this kind of a lot. But I think what we just talked about, meet yourself where you're at, start incorporating meaningful activities back into your life, start telling yourself the correct story, stop self-deprecating, stop calling yourself stupid, stop calling yourself an idiot, stop all of that, please. And the big reason for that is because there's probably one individual that was the last person to call you stupid or an idiot or make you feel small. And when you do that and you start saying these things to yourself, what you're doing is you're keeping yourself in a cycle of emotional abuse. Just the difference is you become your own abuser, and you have to stop that. You have to stop treating yourself with more love and grace and not with judgment. Okay, so this one is, I'm summarizing this question just for time's sake, because I got to get off at like 9:45 my time, which is in like 15 minutes. So managing triggers. How do you manage triggers? So I'm going to give you guys a formula. This is, I wish that I had this information when I was dealing with this, but every trigger tells you a story, and that's why they create consequences. And you have to figure out what the story that your trigger is telling you. So you break this down to your ABCs. You have to find out what your A, which is your activating event. That's what happened. So did you find something of theirs? Did you smell their cologne? Did you smell their perfume? Whatever it might be. That's your activating event. Your B is your belief, and that's your thought process around it. So like, what did it remind you of? What were you thinking when that activating event happened? But you have to go deep down and ask yourself, what did this event tell me about myself? So for me, we'll just stick with the cheating thing to keep it simple. Whenever I would get triggered and think about the cheating stuff, it told me that I wasn't enough. Like I wasn't masculine enough, I wasn't handsome enough, I wasn't fit enough, whatever. I just wasn't enough. That's the story that the trigger was telling me. And then you have a C, which is your consequence, and that's what happened. So did you get flushed? Did your heart rate go up? Did you get tight in your chest? Did you cry? What was your reaction to it? Now, I want you guys to comment this. I'm going to ask you guys a question. Which one of those three parts, your activating event, the belief, or the consequence, which one do you have the least amount of control over? What do you guys think? Your activating event, your belief, or your consequence? Which one do you have the least amount of control over? Okay, comments are starting to come in now. The activating event, you guys are exactly right. So your activating event is actually what you do have the least amount of control over. Because unless you just decided to hole up 2020 style and turn off the TV, turn off the radio, no stimulations, no anything, you can't control your environment completely. You can't necessarily control if you go to the mall and someone walks by and they're wearing the same perfume. You can't control if you turn on the radio and it's a song that you guys dance to the first time. You can't control all of that. But what we get very wrapped up in is the activating event oftentimes. And the biggest mistake that people make with triggers is they just try to avoid them. And they give themselves this false sense of healing because it's like, oh, I haven't gotten triggered in forever. It's because they stopped going to their favorite places, or they stopped turning on the radio, or they, did this because they're just avoiding the activating event. And then what happens is, fast forward a couple of weeks, something out of their control happens. They have the activating event, they get triggered, they have this reaction, and now they're mad at themselves because it's like, oh my gosh, I've taken 4 steps back. It's like, no, you've not taken 4 steps back. It's just that you never really quite took a step forward. You've just been avoiding the situation. So what you have to do is, now I want you guys to answer this question. This is the one that can get tricky. Which one of those three, your activating belief or your consequences, do you have the most control over? What do y'all think? So which one do you have the most control over? Your activating event, your belief, or your consequence? My fiance said consequence. He is wrong. It's your belief. Your belief system. Your belief system is what you have the most control over. You can't get control over your thoughts. Oh, well, that makes so much sense. I'm kidding. The problem is we do get actually. Hang on, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. The problem with the belief system is that we just don't take the time to ask ourselves, what is this trigger telling me? we get very wrapped up in the consequence, right? Because we're tired of reacting, or we get wrapped up in the A, which is where we're trying to just avoid the activating event. But when you can really sit down and break down what is this story telling you, then you can create that. We've talked about correcting phrases already. You can create the true belief. So for me, it wasn't that I wasn't enough. It's who he is. It's what he does. And there's nothing that I could have done. Now I need to work on the whole, like, I'm not enough thing, obviously, but like right now in the moment, I need to just remind myself this had absolutely nothing to do with me. I'm allowed to be upset about it, but you know what? It's not a reflection of me. And so you have to, so next time you get triggered, don't get mad and don't get upset that you got triggered. Actually use it as a way of collecting inventory and walk yourself through these ABCs and find a correcting belief, so that way when the next time that happens, because it probably will happen again, you can tell yourself the true story. And when you can correct the belief, it's kind of like this trickle down event where your consequence will be different because your belief system is different, because your thoughts, those are what actually affect like your feelings, and your feelings affect your actions. So it goes thoughts first, feelings and actions. So correct the thought, correct the belief, and your actions will be different. I wish that I had known that. This is the kind of stuff that I've learned in grad school, in OT school. And again, in case anybody has missed the announcement, I'll say this like another time real quick before we end in like 10 minutes. But I have launched a coaching community, and this coaching community, all the content is going to be about healing strategies and implementation stuff. You know, I'm not going to focus a whole lot on like narcissism and narcissistic traits, because I feel like there's plenty of that information, but there's not enough information out there about the implementation side of things. So right now I'm inviting anybody that wants to be a founding member. The founding members are going to be a part of it for the cheapest it'll ever be offered. It's only $25 a month. You're actually going to help me build this community and give me direct feedback about what you want to see, the kind of contents you like to see on a weekly and monthly basis. It's all going to be separated outside of social media, where you can connect with other members in the community as well and share your story and all of that. So if you're interested in that or have any questions, please do not hesitate to send me a DM. You can send it on either Facebook or Instagram or here on TikTok. Just send me a DM if you have questions. I will answer them. It is still a little bit in the concept phase, so if I don't have the answers, I will be honest with you. But that's also why I'm needing these founding members, is so you can tell me what's going to be valuable in this, and we'll structure it together for like a month or two. I'm only offering this until March 31st, and then I'm closing it off. We'll build it all together for the first month or two, and I'll relaunch it. At that point, it will be a higher price. But if you start as a founding member, nothing changes with you as long as you stay in the tribe. But this is the kind of stuff that we'll be talking about. I'll actually be able to take not just my lived experience, but all the clinical training that I've already gotten in school and combine that and give you specific strategies that you can start applying like right away. So I'm very, very excited about it. My heart is in the healing journey. Like that's what I love, is watching people reclaim their life and reclaim their inner peace and get them mental clarity, because this is nothing about this is normal, and I just needed a plan. Like that's what I needed during this whole thing, is just a plan. So I try to be the resource that I wish that I had had at the time. Oh, this is a fun question. So what are some self-care ideas that you can do at home that don't cost a lot? So one of the things I actually, so I challenged the people, because I just launched the community yesterday. So I challenged the people that have already joined today. I challenged them to just do something for them, you know, like just do something for you today. It doesn't have to be anything big. Just do something that's just for you. Like no excuses, no anything, and then tell us how it goes. So I think that this sounds really corny, but one of the things I suggested, I was like, just have like a 20-minute dance party in your house. Like blast your favorite music and just dance and just have fun. You can do bubble baths if that's your thing. You can do, if arts and crafts are your thing, they do like these little kits and stuff on Amazon that you can just find. I mean, those are cheap. Honestly, just like doing FaceTime dates with your friends, you kind of have to get out of the society version of self-care box and get creative with it. So doing FaceTime dates, or just having people over, you know, spending quality time with your friends and family, you know, these kind of things that they don't cost money. But doing small things like doing your you'd be surprised how much like doing a nighttime routine will really help you. Like it actually will help your sleep, but it also like just taking that 20 minutes a day just to take care of you, it actually really does help your psyche a lot. You can do journaling. You can also do, and don't write me off with this one because if you do, I used to think that meditation was like so hokey. Like I was like, no, I don't. But freaking grad school, man, we learned about like the benefits of meditation, like for your nervous system and like your neuro health. And I was like, gosh, bless it. Okay, I'll try it. So, but give it a shot, but just do like a 15, like 20-minute guided one on YouTube. There's tons of free ones on there. Just try it. You may hate it, but I actually was pleasantly surprised. And then I was like, dadgummit, I really should have been doing this a long time ago. So there's lots of things that you can do at home. You just have to get creative with it. You can get on Pinterest and do like an arts and crafts thing with your kids too. I did that before. That was actually really fun. It's self-care to me. It's so much further and so much beyond like anything beauty related. It's just about doing things that bring you joy, that fill your cup, if you've ever heard that term before. To me, that's what self-care is. Okay. Oh, this is a great question. Do narcissists change in each relationship, or are they always the same person? So this is a yes and no answer. Like, yes, they're always the same, and yes, they change in each relationship. Well, what do I mean by that? The facade that they create is personalized for each individual, because that's when they mirror your interests. That's where they do all of that. So that is very personal to whoever they're with. As far as the cycle of their relationship and what they do, that does not change. So I'll give you an example. My narcissistic ex, when I met him, he dressed very preppy. Like, that's not feminine, but he dressed very preppy. When we broke up, maybe I don't know, we were still in contact for a little while. So at some point down the road, he all of a sudden like started dressing like a frat star, like, which was not his style at all. And it's because of the environment that he was in, because he was in a new city. And, I live in the Metroplex, and let's just say like Dallas gays and Fort Worth gays are very, very different. So he was definitely trying to cater towards the Fort Worth side, which is kind of a little bit more of like mass presenting. So he completely changed how he dressed and all of this stuff. So he adapted to his environment, but the cycle of his relationship right after me was the exact same. And how do I know that? Was because I stayed friends with him like a silly person. Well, uninformed, we'll just say that. And when they started having relationship trouble, he confided in me. How sweet of him. I'm so glad I could help him with that. And he sent me screenshots of some of their conversations, and some of the things that he was saying were the exact same things he said to me. I was like, okay. Someone said, do you recommend living in Texas?
Yes. I love it.
I mean, I love Texas, but
Florida's better.
No, it's not. It's hard for me to answer that question. I've grown up in Texas. I don't know anything else, but do I think that Texans have it all figured out?
Yep.
No, absolutely not. Stop trying to trigger me because it's about to work. So much for being quiet. I'm kidding. Actually, no, I'm not. Hang on. Sorry, I can't read my own handwriting. When you're feeling panicked or triggered by their actions, what strategy do you use to calm down to see beyond their behavior? We kind of talked about that a little bit, but work on the belief system attached to triggers. But if you need something immediately to calm your nervous system down, and I think someone actually commented on Facebook, yes, deep breathing. So there's something called diaphragmatic breathing. It's a breathing technique that they've done a lot of research on, and it actually does help calm down your nervous system. So just go to YouTube, type in diaphragmatic breathing. It's essentially where you're breathing into your belly instead of just your chest. And it is like, and the nice thing about that is you can do it anywhere. But that's one of the fastest ways that you can calm down your nervous system. So again, YouTube diaphragmatic breathing, and that will help. Can you please stop?
Okay, I'm done.
Oh my God. What are some of your favorite resources for healing? Actually, since we're doing this on social media live, someone says he's adding entertainment. That's one way to put it. He's adding distractions is what he's doing. His ADD brain. So my favorite resources for healing, the nice thing is that we're doing this on social media. If you go to the link in my bio, I have a ton of them. So there's like a bunch of books that I recommend. There's my course, but there's also another course that I recommend that's out there. But honestly, think about it this way too. Sometimes resources for healing is your community. Like it's your friends, it's your family. Like sometimes that's like one of the best resources that you can have. And obviously again, nothing I say is generalized. I know everybody has their own unique situations with friends and family, but sometimes you just need to know that you're loved by someone. And so I just really encourage you to push past that no one will understand feeling. Obviously, yes, you can join things like my community and the tribe that I'm starting and build a community that way. Or good, like free Facebook groups, like, there's ways that you can build that too. But the people that are important in your life that maybe you were isolated from can be one of your best resources. So that's my little free nugget, my little tidbit. Oh, I think this is an important question to answer. Yep, I got time. What happens if a narcissist hoovers you back? Will the behaviors improve, and how long will that last? What do y'all think? If they hoover you back in, do you think their behaviors will improve? It's kind of a trick question. Yes or no? It is kind of a trick question, though. And we'll probably end on this last one. I'm not sure. They get worse. Nope. Okay, someone said it right here on Facebook. Sorry if you're on TikTok, you can't see it. But at first, but then it gets worse. So do their behaviors improve? Yeah, at first they do. But it doesn't last very long. And oftentimes it doesn't go back to the way that it was. It oftentimes gets worse. And I want you to think about why. When you come back, well, you're not going to. This is just information for the general public, right? But when people go back, what that does is it tells them, I got away with it, whatever they did. And every time they get away with something, it's honestly very much like children. Like it is, they're stuck in a very rudimentary state of being. When a child gets away with something, they're going to push the envelope the next time. Like, well, I got away with this much, so let me see if I can get away with this much more. The problem is that these are abusive behaviors. And they're like, okay, I got away with this much, so let's see how much they'll tolerate this time before it blows up. So it will get worse. Like it's just, now when? No one can answer that question. However, it will get worse. It's just literally a matter of time. Okay. Like I said, I know I've talked about this a couple of times, so if you've been on with me the whole time, thank you for dealing with me saying this several times. But if you guys like this, and you guys like this whole concept of just coming on, having questions in a jar, all of that, this is going to be one of the things that I do on a monthly basis in it's called Trey's Tribe. It's my coaching community. So this is probably going to be the last time. I can't say never, but this is probably going to be the last time I do it for the general public. But I wanted you guys to get an idea of what we would be doing in the tribe. So I'm doing what's called a founding member offer. It's only $25 a month. I'm looking for people that are wanting to get this kind of implementation based, where you get to take advantage of my clinical training and occupational therapy school, which is all about strategy building and getting back to independence and all of that. But it's also through my lived experience. So you kind of get a little bit of both. Like, I completely understand how all this is because I've lived it, but I also have the clinical training now too. Well, I'm not going to say nothing. I don't need to use extremes. We're rarely going to talk about actual narcissistic traits and all of that. It's all going to be about healing and about implementation, and not just about how to get over a narcissistic person, but to carry it past that. The founding member rate's only $25 a month. It's never going to be this cheap again. This offer is only going to be through March 31st. If you are interested, please DM me. If you have any questions, you can DM me on TikTok, on Facebook, and on Instagram. And you can also, I had it up here, if you're on YouTube, you can also email me, which I'm going to put that back up right now. If you have any questions, really anybody can email me if you want to. It's the same as my handle, just without the underscore. So it's I was like yotrey1 at Gmail. Just don't forget the 1. And just let me know if you have any questions. This is still very much in the concept phase, and that's why I'm wanting founding members to help me kind of build this, so that way you can give me ideas on what you would like to see. I've already had some really great ideas coming through. Like one person was like, have you considered like putting in articles in the community? I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a great idea. Hi. But you can, that's the kind of stuff that I'm needing. I'm needing these ideas. I want it to be valuable. So what better way to do that than to do it with you guys? It will only be this cheap in the founding member rate. We'll work together for like a month or two, and then we'll relaunch it. But you get a place to like build community. You get a place to share your story in a safe environment. It's not going to be on social media. It's going to be completely removed from that. And you just get to also have an opportunity to make a mark in this community too, because you may never want to do what I do. And quite frankly, I do not blame you at all. But maybe this is the way that you can also impact the survivors community, because I truly believe that something like this is needed and can reach many, many people. I do have a link in my bio as well. If you click on the link, it's like the first thing in that link, and you can go to there. Outside of that, like I said, if you have questions, just DM me, or you can email me as well. But I just wanted to let you guys know that that's currently going on right now. I'm just kind of changing things up so that way I can be more accessible. So, so if you think about it, like my one-on-one calls right now are $75 an hour. For that same amount of money, you get 3 months worth of exclusive stuff that's only on that community. So I'm just trying to find ways to be more accessible and valuable at the same time. So I'm very, very excited about it. I'm already excited about those that have already joined. Outside of that, honestly, guys, like I have really enjoyed going live with you the past 2 days in a row. I told y'all at the beginning, if you were here, I don't think I've ever gone live 2 nights in a row. So I know it's late, so I appreciate you guys hanging on with me until the end. And, I truly do love this community. I don't think that I'm here by accident. And I want you guys to know that, y'all always say some of the sweetest things to me about how I've helped and like all of this. And I don't think that you guys realize how much your comments, and I know I don't have time to respond to comments a lot, but your comments are what keep me going. Because sometimes I question whether or not I'm making a difference, and it gets hard sometimes, and just know that all the things that you say to me is what keeps me going on a daily basis. So I really do appreciate it. Outside of that, if you're on my TikTok live, I'm sure that you have heard about all the potential, or all the drama and the potential ban and all of that. Please make sure you're following me on the other platforms. I'm on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. It's the same handle everywhere, except Instagram has a 1 at the end of it. So please make sure that you are there. And you can also go to the link in my bio as well, and it has the links to all my socials. Pretty much when in doubt, just go to the link in my bio. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to wrap it up so I can get myself fed dinner. But I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. And thank you again for joining me. And I will see y'all the next time that I go live. Love you guys so much. And thank you for allowing me to be a part of your healing journey. It means more to me than you know.